Is KCR, the sound of state.
And we're on. Hey everybody, welcome back to KCR College Radio. You're listening to the award-winning Sound of State here at San Diego State University. For those of you tuning in for the very first time, I am your host for this evening, Tishimura, for my entertainment talk show, Tishtalk, where each week I choose a topic in entertainment, grab some of my friends, and we talk about it for the hour. If you want to follow me at KCR Tishtalk, that's KCR TISH Talk. I have a Facebook, a Twitter, Instagram, and a YouTube channel where I put all of my previous shows on there, kind of as a past archive. For the shows of the rest of the semester and, you know, all that good stuff. So, if you guys want to follow me on there, you guys feel free to do so. Also, if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns throughout the show, definitely feel free to tweet at me. That's the best way to get in contact with me throughout the rest of the show. And for just the station in general, if you want to follow KCR College Radio, we also have Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram for those things as well. And for both KCR and also for my show, is KCR On Demand. It's our newest podcasting system where we have original content made by radio hosts here at SDSU, as well as show archives for my show and others, just like Brett and Mackee, for example. So follow all of those things and support the station. We really appreciate it and love you guys for doing that as well. So, with all of that preliminary stuff out of the way. Oh, wait, one more thing. There's a studio phone. If you guys want to call in, studio phone is 619-594-6982. It is on the website. I will say it a few times throughout the show as well. If you guys want to go ahead and talk with us throughout the rest of the show, that'd be super cool. I'm going to put on like my regular music because I don't think I can listen to the scary ones the entire time. But yeah, so that's just all the stuff here. Again, if you guys have any questions, tweet at me and it'll be great. So if you guys didn't recognize the theme that was playing earlier and didn't know already, if you didn't look at a calendar, it's Friday the 13th. And so this has been an episode that I have been waiting to do for a while now, actually, just because I am not a scary movie person and I need to find the right people to do it with. And this was genuinely the right, perfect time for me to have a Friday the 13th special. So with that in mind, we're going to talk about a lot of the spooky stuff, not just Friday the 13th, but also just kind of like horror films in general. And also kind of as like a spoiler warning, we are going to talk about A Quiet Place tonight. I watched it recently, and my guests have also recently watched it today. So we are kind of going to dive into that later on today. So with that in mind, let me introduce my guests. I have one of them you've heard before. One of them is new here to the studio, Ursula Johnson and Aaron Harris. Say hi, guys.
Hello.
How's it going?
Hi. Okay, so typically what I usually have my guests do is just, well, obviously I introduced you guys, but basically who you are, what you guys are up to, and if you guys have if you guys go to school or work, whatever. So, Ursula.
All right, so this is my second time on Tishtalk.
Hey.
I'm still doing the same thing I was last time I was here, still going to work and slaving away to a capitalist society.
Okay. I mean, you're not wrong. Aaron?
Oh, I'm Aaron, and I am going to school, and I paint for a living, and this is my first time doing this.
Well, thank you for coming with us. I was genuinely excited when I heard that y'all watched The Quiet Place and you guys were coming over, so I was like, oh my god, tell him. Let's all be on radio together. It'd be a lot of fun. Fantastic. So, yeah, so I'm not a scary movie person whatsoever. I genuinely am a big old scaredy cat baby, which is why I was very surprised that within the past year I watched it and also A Quiet Place, because I couldn't help but fall to the hype. But it was worth it, and I liked it. But I'm trying to think of what I want to talk about first, and I kind of want to go off what we were talking about earlier off air, because we were just kind of like hanging out here in the studio. So Ursula and I have this thing going on Twitter that has been happening for a while now, and I think it just needs to be addressed.
Oh dear. What out of everything that I post on there are you referring
And
to now?
it's more like the amount of like horror content that ends up on my feed and how uncomfortable I am. And I mean this with as much love as possible. And the only reason why I say that is because one of her favorite horror franchises is like my genuine like thing I am most afraid of in life. So whoever's listening, please don't use this against me. Please, I beg of you. But I don't know if you want to give the context or so.
All right, so I like to post a lot of horror themed stuff on my social media, mostly Twitter, since that's where I waste most of my time.
Same.
And I recently posted a photo set from Bride of Chucky that really disturbed Tisha, and I honestly respect her trauma, so I try not to trigger her.
That's always the goal.
But I honestly thought she was like watching anime or something, so I could, because it was like almost 1 a.m. So I was like, I could go ahead and just tweet whatever I want. Tisha's probably like on Crunchyroll or whatever, and she wasn't. She was very upset, and I kind of felt bad, just a little.
It's okay. No, I'm not. I think it's more. I just don't. To be fair though, too, like obviously it's your Twitter. You do whatever you want with it. But whenever I do see it, I will genuinely like be honest and be like, put the I don't like this tweet, so it doesn't show up for me. So whenever it goes up on you, that's fine. But that one particular, which I don't know if actually works or not, because somebody else retweeted one of your other horror ones that happened to be Chucky, but it was no, I think it was a video which I would have watched further because I think it looked interesting, but then I couldn't because it immediately cut to a Chucky scene, so I was like, okay, can't watch the rest of that. It was like I think one that was like exploring like horror aesthetics.
Oh yeah, the aesthetic one.
Yeah.
The Chucky one was like within the first few seconds.
Exactly.
That was the only time it showed up.
Yeah.
The other
But I
clips
couldn't
that they
watch
had
past
weren't.
it. I was like, alrighty, now I can't look at that too. But then like I put the I don't like this tweet thing, and then it still popped up, and I was like, okay, well I don't understand. But anyways, my point is, Ursula's a big fan of what I fear the most in my life. I forgot what the actual phobia is called. But I'm not a fan of Chucky. I'm not a fan of inanimate objects coming to life when they're not supposed to. Ironically, I think Toy Story is fine, but I can't do Chucky.
Just think of it.
Wait
as
till they
Toy
feature
Story.
Chucky into Toy Story.
Dude,
Next crossover.
I think I would probably die.
Imagine Disney getting the rights to that.
No, that sounds absolutely horrifying.
Disneyland
Chucky
will never
ride.
be the same.
No, I don't like that.
Like Splash Mountain, instead of water, it'll be blood.
Oh my god. I feel like that's. No, I don't know. I don't know if that would be something that they can get away with doing. I think the only place that can maybe get away with it is like Universal Horror Nights. I actually did want to talk about that too, because like I think this year will be the first year I actually might go because it's Stranger Things themed.
Oh, they already announced it?
Yeah, they already announced it.
Nice.
They put out like a little promo poster and it was like a Stranger Things, and it was like, we're not in Hawkins anymore, and you see like the kids up in the front with like the classic colors and stuff like that, and I was just like, oh, that's really cool. But I'm also like, oh, I have to face my fears because I want to go for this franchise I really love and support, but then I also know that like people like to dress up, or not like to, but they have like workers that dress up as Chucky and they like chase you around, and I'm like, okay, just like if you don't look at them in the eye and pretend you're not afraid of them, maybe they won't chase you.
Yeah, that was me and Ursula's Halloween costume one year.
Was it last year? Really?
We dressed up
2
as
years ago?
we did the Ride of Chucky 2 years ago.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Oh my goodness. I have a picture of you on our Barnes & Noble Instagrams that I run. I have a picture of you on there as one as like the. Do you remember? It was
Oh,
for
was
one
it
of the.
from the Halloween Spirit week?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Was that the same year that you guys dressed it up, or you just had to?
No,
have it?
I pulled it out
Mhm.
this year for Spirit Week at work, but my original costume was from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That was my first time doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But funnily enough, though, that was like one of the ones that had the most likes.
Well,
Yeah. But it was good though. It's a good
You're
recreation
welcome.
from what I remember. You know, like I will genuinely say that I block out a lot of my memory when it comes to Chucky's. With good reason. But I was like, what I was saying off air for the listeners is that I actually, because I fear it very much, and growing up I did not want to try and test my fear. I actually didn't really know what the context of Chucky was at all. And so I had to have Ursula and Aaron tell me what exactly I was genuinely afraid of. And so you mentioned that there was like, I think when we were like talking about doing the show, you mentioned that like there is like an actual like canon universe for Chucky now.
oh yeah.
Can you explain that?
that was when I was trying to defend the series to you as to why it's good.
Why though?
Because
pitch it to me. Pitch it to me.
Because if you think of it in the way that you think of like Star Wars or the Avengers, you have to have like the universe like that has a real like a continuity to it, and you don't get that a lot with horror films, especially because when franchises start spanning years and decades, things get kind of messy or rebooted and they lose details. But with the Child's Play series, it's maintained the same canon and it's been around for 30 years. And every change that happens to it is all legitimate and they keep everything in mind, even though they've switched the tone of the series multiple times from like a supernatural horror to just regular gore to like the last installment before the main reboot being like a black comedy where that was hardly horror at all.
Oh, really?
It was just silliness mixed with guts. But it's all like maintained its legitimacy. Like they all tie in. They don't want you to forget that this happened. They'll always go back to it. Like, oh yeah, this did happen, and they'll reference it. So that's why I like it, because it has its own main continuity. That it's maintained the same writer. Don Mancini's been a part of the Child's Play franchise since it was invented. So you don't really get that a lot, like with Friday the 13th or Freddy Krueger or Halloween. It's always like different directors. Yeah.
So with those other franchises, are they kind of like, again, this is me being completely ignorant to the culture because I am like a big old scary cat. But when it comes to like reboots and stuff like that, like you said, for like Halloween and for like Friday the 13th, and even like, well, is the Saw series kind of the exception where it's like those other movies reboot and it's like a different story or like a different timeline, or like how does that exactly, like how's that different?
The first 7 films pretty much continue the story. I mean, this last one that came out, Jigsaw.
Was that kind of like more like a prequel, or was that a continuation of like, does it pick up later on in terms of like time?
It doesn't pick up. I honestly don't know how to describe it. It's somewhat
that
of a
one
prequel.
was weird. It was a little bit of a prequel.
Oh, okay.
They tried to do like the whole non-linear Pulp Fiction type of thing, but where it doesn't appear to be in the past until like the very end, and you figure out like, oh, this happened a long time ago.
Oh, I see.
But
Okay.
it wasn't very clear, which is why I understand a lot of people were upset about it.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people were upset with it
because it was a non-linear plot, but it didn't really prove itself to be that until the very last second. So it just seemed kind of like
Didn't I give you guys free tickets for that?
You did.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I was like,
I just remember that.
Your
I was like,
fears. You went to the Saw blood drive that was here on your campus.
I did, but it was just a regular blood drive with Saw merch. That was the only thing. I was like, I have a shirt and I have a pen, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then I got tickets.
But you surrounded yourself in the imagery, which would be a big step for you. So I am very proud to you.
Did they make you draw your own blood?
No, but I think that would be a very immersive experience if they did do that. Oh my god. No, what I meant to say about the other sequels, like how many movies are for like Friday the 13th? I heard there's like a lot of them.
Yeah. I can't really name them all from the top of my head.
But it's definitely more than like a trilogy, no?
Oh yeah,
definitely. More than a
Really?
Sega, I think.
Are you serious? Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I just...
Even can the same be? I think the same can be said for Halloween too, right? Because they have like a bunch of like
yeah,
like
all of
H2,
those major ones have like so many. And it's so hard to keep track of them. Like I want to say like there's maybe 8
For Halloween? Sounds about right.
8 movies?
Sounds
you
about
kidding
right.
me? That's so much. That's like half of like the Marvel universe right there.
See, so that's why in terms of continuity, you have to think of it in that way.
But does Halloween, does those movies, do they hold up and do they have that type of continuity?
No, that's just why I like Chucky the Most.
Okay. So then the other ones then, do they like, why, how is it different in terms of like, how does it have so many films that it's not like there's no continuity in between other than like it's the same character, like the same main villain guy?
I don't understand how they get away with it, but
Oh, really?
it's just up to whoever's writing the character at
Pretty
the
much,
time.
or who's directing it.
Is it kind of like, so they're not, I don't know how to explain it. I'm trying to understand, like, so each movie is just like this person, like this character comes out of nowhere and just killing new people in each film. Like there's no tie between the other movies to each other at all?
There's some that kind of tie in, and then there's some that pretty much a standalone, like H2O, which I didn't really like that much.
From the Halloween series.
And then there's the Rob Zombie films, which doesn't really have much of a story. It's just cussing and sexual content and violence.
Okay.
So
featuring Michael Myers.
He just happens to be there in the background.
Pretty much. It's just
they're okay, but it's not the same to me.
Okay. Well, yeah, that was something that I think it's funny because I like the concept of horror films and like the free reign in terms of like what you can talk about and everything. I just can't consume it because, again, I'm a big old baby.
That's how I was for the longest time, especially because no one in my family or my direct family was into it either.
Yeah, same
so
here.
like I was, because I have always been into comic books, and then I like the retro, the pulp style, and a lot of the pulp comics were like sci-fi and horror themed. So I was drawn to the artwork for that, and then like from going from the comics like to the actual films, I was kind of attracted to it, but never really watched them until like a little later in life, and then I just got like completely consumed by it. And then I met Aaron, who like has everything or owns like so many things,
Pretty much.
and so like we share everything now. So I'm like all in now.
That's good though. I mean, like I think it's fun to kind of like enjoy, and even if they don't, I feel like for example, like I was telling them that in the beginning of the semester I did like a Star Wars episode, and even though I'm not like a full consumer of it, I always think it's really interesting to have the contrast, but at the same time it's also fun to kind of like geek out with the same thing and like liking it. Which I'm like wondering if I want to save Quiet Place. I'll save the Quiet Place stuff for the second half of the show. But in terms of like what you guys consume for like horror films, I'll get into some of the questions. So what would be your guys' like favorite scary movie overall?
Oh, you have to say it in the Scream voice. What's your favorite scary?
No. Oh my god.
Have you checked the children? That movie was garbage.
So the answer is not Scream.
Okay. No, not Scream. That was When a Stranger Calls.
Oh.
What I just referenced.
Yeah. I mean, same thing. Still threatening somebody over the phone.
What's your favorite scary movie?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Right, but I have a lot. I mean, I can't really think of my top favorite film, my horror film.
I mean, you can rattle them off, some of your favorites if you want. If that helps.
Well, I like the whole Alien franchise.
Okay.
Actually,
So good.
yeah, I got her hooked up to it, and Friday the 13th. That's always been my thing. Chucky, and it's the voice and his catchphrases that get me. I always thought it was funny. Well, I take that back. I mean, like in elementary school, I thought that would freak me out. No, but
then you grew to love it, kind of thing.
Pretty much in middle school, like I gave it a second chance, and I just thought it was hilarious.
That will never be me. I'm just gonna be real right now. It's not. Ursula, what about you?
After going through and watching all these movies together with him, I have to say that the one that really grew on me the most, aside from Chucky, of course, being like one of my favorites, was the Evil Dead franchise.
That's a real good franchise.
Those three movies were like I think we watched like at least the first two in one night because I was like going crazy about it.
What exactly is that? Because I think if I remember correctly, the only thing I can retain from that is when they would have advertisements on YouTube and it's like, don't skip it, don't skip it, don't skip it. Is that the right one? Because I thought that was like, yeah, it was like it zoomed in on like the scary girl's face in like a basement and she's peeking out and she's like telling like, you know how you can skip the advertisement?
Oh, yeah, that's
like,
the
don't
spinoff.
Yeah, like that's the only thing I can remember from it. I'm like, that's like trolly and terrifying at the same time. I'm gonna skip it. I don't like it. But yeah, what exactly is? Like,
yeah, they
Evil
had
Dead?
a reboot of that one. Like
It was
I don't know,
like
in 2000 something.
Yeah, probably like what 20,
12, 13,
Yeah.
something like that.
something like that. Because it was like YouTube was beginning to pick up. That was the only reason I remembered it. Because like now they're advertising big films on YouTube. So, but what exactly is kind of like the Evil Dead franchise?
The Evil Dead franchise is like pretty much you take the standard teenagers go out in the woods type of that. You take that trope and they find a Necronomicon, which is the Book of the Dead, and they recite from it because why wouldn't you? And they bring these demon creatures, the Deadites, up from hell, and it's just them battling
Chaos.
these Deadites. It's just a bunch of chaos, a bunch of
Like over the
craziness.
top gore.
Over the top.
Oh, really? Like in a comedic way, or like a this is too much kind of way?
Well, it's an old movie, so I mean,
Oh,
it's
okay.
it's meant to be taken serious at the time, but watching them now, it's kind of comedic. So
Yeah, like you could see like the puppetry and the special effects of that time.
the
Bless.
acting,
Oh yeah, the
facial
acting.
expressions.
Oh, really? I guess that's the only thing that like they have on in terms of like older scary movies that you can kind of go back and enjoy. Like I don't know if you can do that now with newer movies, just because like with CGI and like just how acting has kind of evolved. Like it's not as, I mean, like there are enjoyable things, but you can't really look for those as much. At least that's what I think.
Yeah, especially like with newer stuff. I think that's why they try to reboot these franchises so often, because they're like, well, now with the effects that we have, let's see what we can do. Like, can you imagine like this Evil Dead with this much, if we put this much money behind it and get this effect on there, like how much better it would be? But that's not always the case sometimes, because some of them hold up, and it's not just about how well the effects look on camera. It's just about the imagery and the effect that it creates on you when you see it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't get that same thing from CGI. It's just different. It's more of a tone thing, if anything, than just like what you see. It's what you feel.
Yeah. Like they can't always rely on just like jump scares and stuff like that.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay.
At least they try. I mean, it never gets me.
Oh, really?
Only
I'm
the dumbest parts do. Like if it's a suspenseful scene, it's just quiet. All of a sudden, you hear a dog bark or a phone ring. It's like, oh my gosh! I mean, that always gets me. But the actual horror itself never does.
Oh, does it really? Yeah.
I hate it when that happens.
You're like, there was like I remember I kind of talked about it on it. There was like one scene that freaked me out, and I got really angry because it was such a stupid scene to get like jump scared for. In the newest It, I want to say it was like, oh my god, I forgot what it was, but I think it was supposed to be like with Georgie or something like that, and it was like a flashlight, or it was the turtle or something. Or no, I think it was
you
like,
see like two glowing dots or something. It's supposed to look like eyes.
and then I think it was
or
like
it was in
that.
the basement.
I think it was in the basement, and like when he went down, it was the noise that freaked me. I was like, but then
it's stuff like that.
yeah,
too.
and I was like, oh my god, are you kidding me? I was angry. I'm like, it wasn't even scary. I'm a big old baby. It's not fair. Let's see. Do you guys have a least favorite film? I mean, mine
like
obviously Chucky.
part 2 through whatever it ended on of Hellraiser. Like the first one I really like, and the other ones I think is garbage.
They should have just kept it at that one.
Pretty much to me.
No, I remember I was at work and I had a customer order for a new Hellraiser movie, and I checked the release date, and it was like from last month or something. And I was like, they're still making these? No way.
Was it one of those things that was like what's it called, from movie to DVD, like almost immediately?
Yeah.
Kind of thing?
Yeah.
Those doesn't.
It
Didn't
tripped me
they
up
do
so
that with
Or
the
does
Chucky
it
one
even
too?
appear in theaters?
Yeah, exactly.
For the Chucky movies, the last one that appeared in theater was The Seed of Chucky, and that one didn't do very well at all. So
yeah, I think the last one that they did it straight to DVD, huh?
yeah, the last two have been straight to
Or
DVD or
streaming.
streaming.
I don't like it. I want to see what else I want to talk about. You guys are like big horror people, so have you guys actually gone to places in terms of like haunted places? Like, do you mess around with that or nah?
We do haunted trails every year.
Mm-hmm.
We started doing that like 3 years.
Scream zones.
Yes, the Scream Zones. We do that. There was this Savage House little mini pop-up museum that they had in Mission Valley like last year or 2 years ago, where they just had a bunch of like memorabilia on display, as well as like a zombie maze.
Fun.
And we didn't go inside the zombie maze, but we went into the museum and we saw like they had some of the traps from Saw, like the glass.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean terrifying, but cool.
And the pig mask.
I wish we could wear them.
Wait,
I mean,
why?
actually have the mask close up on my
Oh yeah,
face.
the reverse bear trap. They had
That's crazy.
They had a replica of Clownzilla from Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh, okay.
Which is one of my favorites again.
That I know the name is a very
Anything
big
with clowns
classic.
is her favorites.
Really?
The same here, but mostly her.
The little Sam from Trick or Treat. It was in Chucky.
Chucky, of course.
Of course he was there.
It wouldn't be a party if he wasn't.
Unfortunately. Would there but I'm in terms of like do you guys mess around with like the quote unquote real stuff like ghosts or like Ouija board and stuff like that? No. Straight up no.
I had once, but that was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. No, it's funny because like where Ursula and I or where I work for, up until a certain point in time, but where both of us work right now, we sell Ouija boards, and every time somebody buys one, at least whenever Arlene would sell, when she would work there, whenever she'd sell them to them, she would give them like the lowdowns, like, okay, remember to do this, this, and this. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And I always have customers who come in and they're like, oh my God, you actually sell that stuff? I'm like, yeah. Also it's like, don't be surprised to know that there are people who genuinely return it like the next day or after they use it and they're like, no, I don't want to use it again.
Right, so
have you had customers like that do that?
I've never dealt with that.
Really?
I just remember that there was a point in time where we had to put security wraps on them because kids would come in and try to play with them.
Mm-hmm.
And
didn't we find one in the bathroom at one point?
Yes. Please don't try to summon demons in the bathroom. I mean, that's just messy.
It's just
it's messy enough already. Please don't make it hard on me because I'm the one that has to deal with it. But
yeah, it was a no bueno.
Sorry.
I always have a hard time taking security tags off of merchandise. Like, it's always a battle between me and the tag usually wins. But
yes.
I remember I had to take a security tag off of a Ouija board that a customer had purchased, and I could have sworn that the tag popped off before I even put the magnet on it.
Or
like it was like the easiest one that I'd ever dealt with, and coincidentally it was with the Ouija board. So I'm just standing there thinking like, there's a demon in here that needs to get out.
And I'm gonna give it to this
customer.
And
I handed it to the customer, and I kind of didn't want to because she had to have been about 15 or 16 years old.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of kids
she had
that come in and buy
braces
it.
and stuff,
Aww.
and I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm
good.
But you know what? You gave me like $22, so it's yours.
You paid for it. Here you go. Here's your receipt. Would you like it back? All right. Well, we have so much spooky things. I always say like I always wrote way too much, which is always a good thing because you don't have to worry about it for later. So it's all good. But really quick, I need to get some ad read on because it's almost I'll do it right now. At this time, we just want to thank our supporting organizations and sponsors of KCR. You can head to newscenter.sdcu.edu/events to see many of the awesome events and opportunities available to SDCU students. Find events such as leadership workshops, movie nights, sports games, and career fairs. There's plenty to get involved in, so check out newscenter.sdcu.edu/events today. And make sure to follow KCR on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at KCR College Radio for weekly news and sport updates, as well as the latest giveaway opportunities. And that's that. It's funny, I think one of my other director peoples, he was saying that he got recognized because we do, like, from the Instagram, we do, like, news just like news shorts and stuff like that. And somebody was like, oh my God, you're from like KCR's like Instagram page, right? He's like, oh yeah, that's me. And he's like, yeah, I get all of my news from you guys. I'm like, dude, that's actually really cool to know that like people actually genuinely like go to us for content. And I think that's really rad. And we really, really appreciate it. So if you guys would, I'm trying to find the page that I'm supposed to write oh, hello, ASMR. We would really appreciate it if you guys supported us. So yeah. And with that, that means that as I try and find the freaking page that I'm supposed to write down, the thing that I was supposed to be on, this is a heads up that it's going to get into spoilers for A Quiet Place. A Quiet Place, A Quiet Place. I'm trying to remember which one. A Quiet Place. Okay. Like I wrote it down.
We said it at the same time.
Yes.
Cool.
That's love. So I guess initially, like, what are your guys' thoughts?
I thought it was really good.
Really good?
I wouldn't say the best, but it was good. I would recommend it.
Yeah.
That movie stressed me out.
Yeah, I walked out of there and was like, I feel like I'm gonna have an anxiety attack, man. I don't know. Like, it was good, but I was also very terrified.
It was super stressful, and it does help if you go into a theater that the audience has, that nonverbal contract that they're going to be as quiet as possible.
Yeah.
That helps a lot.
I really liked that the internet kind of made it a joke where it's like you can't buy popcorn, you can't like get candy or whatever because it's gonna be way too loud. Yeah, you can't do anything. It's
Turn
gonna
your
be
phone
way
off.
too loud. Yeah, because it made people behave. Like I think it genuinely made people behave and sit there and actually enjoy the movie. Like my friend Cameron, shout out to Cam. He and I both work for NBC, and we ended up watching the movie. I think this past like Wednesday or something like that. And he treated me out because he's like, "Oh my god, you got me this job, so I want to treat you." And I had mentioned The Quiet Place because I originally wanted to talk about it for this week, or at least at one point. And we ended up watching it at the ArcLight Theater in UTC nearby
nice.
UCSD. So he bought the tickets. So I was like, "Okay, that's on you, dude." But it was like it was like the Dolby Atmos or whatever. It was like the IMAX of IMAXs, and so it was big and it was loud. And I was very anxious the entire time. And our theater was for the most part, because it was like a 10-something o'clock in the morning on like a Wednesday. It was for the most part empty. There's maybe like three other people there. It was great, but I was also terrified the entire time. But it was just I don't like horror films, but I actually really enjoyed this one. But like I think what a lot of like films nowadays, which I think is like refreshing to see like a horror film like this. Again, I know that I also don't consume them very often. Is that this is like, I hope it stays this way, like a standalone movie and that's it, and it leaves you guessing for what potentially happens next, but then like that's it, you know what I mean? It leaves the audience kind of like wondering what happens for the rest of the.
And I think the cool thing about these movies coming out recently, like with The Quiet Place being the most recent one, but like with the other ones, with It or Get Out, that it's basically making horror more mainstream than it's been in a while.
Yeah.
Right.
And people like who wouldn't typically go out of their way to watch horror films or are watching these films and making them number one. So yeah, it's somewhat of a horror renaissance.
It kind of is, and which is like, but in the right way, because I think they tried to force it a long time ago with like the whole Universal reboot thing that they wanted to do
with Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
and is that his real butt or not?
Exactly, but like I feel like that was like their version of trying to do that unnaturally, and then now that they're trying to like actually explore and get into like films that like could just be like fine on its own and doesn't have to create like a entire franchise out of it. Like I think that's kind of cool, them going back into it. I'm gonna try and find so Cameron and I, because I was telling him like right after, because I knew that I had watched this movie like the same day as an exam that I had. So I had to study, but I also knew I did actually got a good grade on it. So I was like, yay! But like, I also couldn't focus on studying because my brain was still thinking about the film, and I was like, okay, but what about this? And what about this? I'm like, oh, I really enjoyed this, and this. And typically, if I don't have a show to kind of like express that like right away, I'll typically like write everything down. So I started writing a bunch of stuff down, but then at one point I was like, this is taking way too long. So I started typing everything out. So then I shared the doc with my friend, and I was like, oh my god, please join me in like talking about this movie, because like I need to get it out of my system before I can actually focus and study. So I have like this entire like Google Doc where I just like crammed a bunch of stuff in here, and I'm gonna pull it up so we can kind of talk about it. Initially I actually thought going into the film, I didn't realize it was the dialogue part that was completely cut out. I thought it was just gonna be like no sound whatsoever except for like the
silent
wrestling
film.
Yeah, kind of like a silent film, except like you'll hear the walking around. Yeah, I actually thought it was gonna be the case. Like you'll hear the like, I think they're aliens. First of all, the things that are in there.
Right.
Do you think so too? Or something different?
Aliens?
Yeah, I thought they were aliens.
I don't know. Maybe it was
some random forest monster.
Really?
Maybe man paid the price for playing God.
That's also that too. I think the only reason why I couldn't drop the alien thing is that I remember distinctively, like, you know how they would always cut to like different newspapers and stuff like that. I think one of the newspapers said like angels of death, and I'm like, oh, that means they came from the sky. Aliens.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I think that's the only reason why like, I'm sticking to it right now.
And Aaron and I saw it together earlier today, and we were actually discussing it. You mentioned that the sounds that the monsters in the movie
sounds like
make.
men of xenomorphs from Alien franchise.
Oh,
yeah, the sound effects reminded us of the sound effects from the Alien movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I mean, they kind of
the monsters kind of look like what you see in Resident Evil films too.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my god! But Resident Evil ones weren't those? I don't.
I wouldn't consider them horror, honestly. But
are they more like action?
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoy their video games though.
Me too. I'm a big fan of them.
But I was kind of surprised because there was a soundtrack, and I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. 'Cause I can still kind of gauge the movie, but I enjoyed how very, very little dialogue there was in there.
Right.
Like it created a lot more suspense, and then I also appreciated that like the daughter, her name is like Millicent Simmons. She actually is deaf in real life. So like you see her in like interviews and stuff like that, and there's somebody she's signing, and there's somebody like translating for her, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And they're like saying in like post interviews that having like a deaf main character was like a must, like it has to be a thing. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. But like the whole the amount of like noise that was absent made me very anxious in the movie, but it was great. Like I thought it was a very interesting way to see a horror film taken on. So
yeah, it definitely was. So if anybody's gonna watch it, you could eat snacks, but just be quiet snacks.
Don't talk.
Just be real quiet.
Don't talk to. We had teenagers sitting behind us that were speaking.
Oh,
so.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they kept dropping. They dropped their phone on the floor, and I was like, "What is that?"
And making tapping sounds with their feet.
So yeah, please don't be like them. Like calling them out right now.
Please no. Oh, there's one. I'm like trying to like look at what I wrote. So the part where that old dude, where they stumble upon the old guy.
Oh,
what do you guys think that was about?
I think he wanted to kill himself.
But like, why? Was he going crazy?
Well, because they saw the body in the gorge.
Yeah, and it was a woman, so we assume it's his wife.
Yeah, that's what I think.
He's given up. He doesn't have his wife anymore. The world is in an apocalypse. He literally has nothing to live for. He doesn't have a family. So
he's useless.
Yeah.
Worthless.
He's old. Can't defend himself.
He's bound to die anyways.
Mm-hmm. So you just like forget it and then just like
pretty much.
Yeah, because I was like, I made a note that at first when I saw the woman on the ground, for whatever reason, I was like, is he a cannibal? Because there's not a lot of food left or whatever, and I thought he like killed her. But then like him just standing there, I guess.
Yeah, the fact that there was a body was a little it did throw me off a little bit, because I just kind of believed that, because in the beginning there's like no body left over.
Yeah,
like you
exactly.
see the first death and there's no body, but there's a body there. So that did kind of throw me off, because those monsters are huge. It didn't really seem like the type that would leave leftovers.
Right.
Oh, again, this is spoilers territory, so
I
beware.
apologize for that.
No, you're good. No,
not to you, to the people.
Yeah, no. I mean, like they know that's what like 80% of my show is at one point. Especially when we like key in on movies, it's like it's spoilers.
I go straight to the ending.
Exactly. Well, I kind of wanted to talk about that though.
I was hoping not to talk about it.
Oh, really? It's fine.
It's I don't care.
I think, I mean I guess okay, I'll try and tiptoe around it. The final death I thought was very appropriate. Like a
with
good thing. With
the monster or the father.
Yeah.
Well, look at you doing what you didn't want to do.
I know.
What she wants.
the father, yeah. So
Okay.
John Krasinski's character dying. I thought it was really appropriate, not just because like he emphasized that like this movie is supposed to be a gigantic metaphor for parenthood, and like you see like the dad obviously sacrificing to protect his children, but also it was kind of like a smart role in my opinion, because he also directed this entire movie, which means that he got to direct the more like climactic parts of the film. Like now that he kind of like has hands off, like okay, my character's gone now I can focus on on finishing it the way I wanted to finish it. I thought that was like a brilliant kind of like little strategy that they did, because it's like now you don't have to worry, now you can do like the whole fight scene and all that stuff. So it's like, but also the monsters death was also pretty dope too. So
that was a dope scene.
Yeah. Do you guys think they survived in the end?
I think so, because we had that discussion. I was like, oh, like, did you see that at the end? They're ready to kick butt, man. They're not scared.
I wasn't looking for it. I mean, the whole time I was rooting for the monsters. Like
that's his thing.
I have a dark sense of humor. I mean, I was just kind of hoping that this family would just get decapitated.
Mm-hmm.
See, we watched this movie together, and we sort of adapted the whole sign thing too, because we didn't want to talk. So I could see, I see him in my peripheral vision. Every time the monsters come and start causing chaos, okay, I see him like fist pumping.
You're like,
he's like,
yeah, kill him.
and so then I turn to him and I start violently like pointing my thumbs down
You're
at
like,
him.
no,
Like,
And then
no.
I just violently do more fist pumping.
So that's how we're
I'm
communicating.
punching her.
We're not saying anything. We're just like making faces at each other. I'm not daring to whisper because I don't want to be that person. But I'm like flapping my arms around at him, like, stop it.
Like, no.
He's flapping them
Because
back.
every movie we watch, I mean, I always whisper like "cool," because I prefer watching like
mayhem,
blood splatter. I mean, I'm pretty picky with my violent films.
There's like a specific kind of like gore that you appreciate, or like other ones.
Like knowing him personally, he likes slasher stuff.
Just anything really, just as long as I see blood splatter. I mean, just like
Dexter type of stuff.
I don't like that show anyways,
but
I guess yeah.
We're gonna talk about blood.
But yeah, like, well, so you don't think they survived in the end?
I don't know.
No?
I
Probably.
think they did.
A part of me wants to say yes, but also there was a lot of them coming towards them, and she had like a shotgun that could only like fire so much.
I know,
Right.
they're on the board. It's like 3. And I was
And
like,
well,
what?
Yeah.
Well, shotguns typically carry what, like 5-6 shells?
Yeah. It's
And
not
she only
a lot.
fired one, so
No, wasn't it 2? Oh no, it was 1, huh? Like, was it a straight headshot?
yeah.
Yeah, I guess. But it just seemed like there was a lot because it was one loud bang. I mean, like, I don't know. Like, my friend and I were like trying to like conspiracize. Like, well, I wonder if they stayed like in that concept. Would you stay there because like now you have the technology to kind of keep them away, or would you go somewhere completely different now that like your resources are completely down? Essentially, like, if these creatures are like monsters, they'll be able to like smell their own scent and they'll sense that something's wrong, so they'll kind of go investigate and see that like a bunch of their kind is like destroyed. So I'm like, and another thing that I keep seeing online is that people were speculating that they should just live nearby the waterfall. And a part of me was also thinking the same thing, and then I started reading more like, well, no, because it's like waterfall versus like all of your resources at like this barn.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I guess, but then like you at least know that they won't go to the waterfall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could spend your time at the waterfall and maybe go back to the barn when you have to.
I guess, but I wonder.
Semi-nomadic lifestyle.
I wonder, right? Yeah, I wonder if it's like because that would like say something is chasing you, but then you jump into the water because they can't see you. Those things are blind. So if you jump into the water and you kind of like wade around in there, do you think that like they would get confused because they don't know where to go?
Well, yeah, because initially you get the sound of the splash, but when you're underwater, or
at least
I don't have a lot of
water.
experience being in water, but just I imagine you can't hear anything or you don't make noise once you get in there. So just don't if you swim like under the water, or just stay there. Maybe come up to get a breath, super shallow, like.
But they wouldn't even know where to get you.
No, because
there's so much going on, right?
Yeah, and then
plus
the waterfall.
they're blind too.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. So they wouldn't be able to see you. So that's another thing. That's another way you can survive. But I thought it was really interesting because we were like talking about like what happened to everybody else in the world. Like how quickly did they adapt? Because like I think the time cards, it jumped from like the beginning being like day 89 to like all the way to like 400.
430 something.
Yeah. So it's been like a few years, or at least like a good year or two. And it got me thinking, I'm like, well, what happened to the rest of the world? Like, where's like, you know how like in horror films, like if something bad went down, like say for example in like zombie movies, they typically take like the person in power and like they hide him away in like Area 51 or whatever.
Right.
Like they try and keep like the most important people like safe while the rest of the world is essentially fending for themselves, and then eventually kind of pushing people out. And I was like thinking, like, what happened to like the military and the government and stuff like that? And then I think I saw like a screen cap where it said there was one specific, and it was a really small one too, newspaper that said military defeated, and it says like we can no longer protect you. And I'm like, dang, that's interesting. I thought that was like really cool that they kind of added that, because typically I think in other horror films, except unless it's like a post-apocalyptic one, like you don't typically see them, huh?
Right.
Yeah. No.
Or I don't know.
not that I could think of.
The only one that I can think of was again because that film terrified me. I think was like, I always mix the two up. 28 Weeks Later.
I love that movie.
Is that the one in London?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because that one, the main character was Jeremy Renner, and he was like a soldier or something, right?
I honestly don't know my actors and actresses very well, but he's the sniper, right?
Yeah, he's a sniper. He plays Hawkeye in Avengers.
Yeah,
that guy. Yeah. But yeah, that was the only one that I could think of that like military was kind of involved. Also, I don't like that film because it's scary and that has to be the most violent type of zombie I've ever seen in a film.
I love it.
Really?
Yeah, I love it a lot.
Like that's intense. I never watched the. Is that considered a sequel?
Sequel is 2 movies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the first one is the 28 Days Later, and that one is in America, right?
No, it's
London
also as well.
Oh, okay. Somebody told me that there was like one's supposed to be American, one's supposed to be London, but I guess not. But
what's the difference?
Yeah. Well,
they're like cousins.
Kind of, yeah, I guess so. But yeah, like that was the only thing that got me thinking about like that's interesting how there's like you don't see anybody else, and if you see somebody else, they die.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's like I thought it was a good film. I'm trying to see what else I wrote down. I think the only other one that we kept talking about was the nail in the stairs.
Oh my goodness.
I don't.
There's like 3 scenes. Like I'm just hoping that everyone steps on that
That's
nail.
what I'm saying. And it made me so anxious. I was like, oh my god.
I was like, step on it.
I don't know why, but that made me like more anxious than the actual monsters.
Me too. I saw that and I'm just like, I'm grabbing my face. It's like, stop it.
Yeah, plus I sympathize with that too. I used to work construction. I stepped in a lot of nails back in my days.
Man.
Just
That is just no, man. That was just too much. I was like, dude, like seeing her do that while she was like in like labor pains. I was like, oh my god. Which also that kind of leads into the next thing. Do you think that they set up the whole fireworks thing in preparation for her to give birth, or as like a failsafe, as like a be distracted, keep the monsters away from like the farm?
yeah, I'd say that.
Yeah, I thought that it was something that they'd probably just had for a while. Like one of those, oh, save it for when you really need it. And that was when they really needed it.
Yeah, they don't need it.
I only wonder if that wasn't like a failsafe for when she was going to give birth. Like, how exactly would you do that without like being in that much pain? Because they clearly prepared for the kid to come around with like the whole box.
She was just in the wrong place, wrong time.
I guess. Yeah, dude. Like crazy, wrong place, wrong time.
That room that they made, I mean, I'm sure she would have gotten away with it if it happened in there. So.
Oh yeah, that's true, huh? Because that was completely soundproofed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until the water seeped in. That was.
And
yeah, that was. Oh my god, that was like a. I mean, I thought that was really interesting.
The water made me mad. I was like, are you serious?
Wait,
I was hoping that
you can't have one good thing.
Oh yeah.
It just keeps going, never stops.
When I
doesn't
saw
stop.
it, when the thing dived into the water, I was like, no, I can't do that, man. No, that's too much. There's like Jaws right there, but with like more Jaws than Jaw would. That was really bad, but it was. What? Did you just get that? Oh my god! Ursula, please. Ursula, please.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my god.
I understood what you were trying to do.
Thank you. I tried.
Jaws is.
Jaws is.
So many.
Let me see. One of the other things that I was like upset about was where were the other people in that film? There were clearly other people in that film in their general area. Like, I get that the monsters are scary, but you're not going to help the family that has a pregnant woman? Like,
well, they don't know she was pregnant.
I mean, like, they had to at one point talk with each other if they're all, like, making those bonfires to make sure everyone's alive in the neighboring areas, right? I don't know. That was me. I was like...
they're all going to end up like the old dude. I mean, you can't trust them.
Oh, I guess. But I was just kind of, like, almost offended for them and be like, you're not going to help the pregnant woman and her family? Not even a little bit? Like, resources, neighbors.
Pregnant in this economy?
How dare you?
Plus, the setting in that scene is probably midnight or early morning. They're probably sleeping.
Yeah, I guess. But they wouldn't hear it? I feel like in that world, you have to, like... Well, actually, that's something else which I thought was really interesting that you brought up. How she didn't wake up in that room literally full of water until like she hears something go off, like the fire go off next to her.
Yeah.
Like, you would imagine all these people would be like super light sleepers because like they like develop it because they need to stay awake or they need to be like aware of the surroundings of all time. So I thought that was like a ridiculous. I'm like, you really gonna sleep that deeply in this type of world.
Yeah, I was honestly hoping that she drowns in her sleep. I mean,
That's what you're hoping.
That's what I was. Like I said, I wanted everybody dead in this film.
Oh my god! I didn't
those
think
monsters
everyone
deserve a
died.
chance to live.
Exactly. I mean, there's not a whole lot of them.
They have to eat.
I don't know. The world seemed pretty extinct, you know. So yeah, I feel like there was a lot of them. I knew. I mean, obviously, again, spoilers. I knew somebody had to die, but I wasn't sure in terms of like characters. I didn't know who. I wasn't surprised when John Krasinski's character died. I was expecting Emily Blunt's character to die, like after the tub scene.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, no, she's dead.
I was feeling that too.
I was like, whew.
Like she ain't coming out of this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, I guess, but she birthed herself. That's what happened. She did birth on her own. That's terrifying. While these monsters
there's a monster in her house.
That was
Oh my
like literally
goodness.
right there. Like,
I was just thinking, I was like, that baby gonna come out, that baby gonna scream. I was like, oh my
gotta
goodness.
shred that baby apart.
Like,
Yeah.
no.
it was. I think what that movie, like one of the things it really hung on to is like dragging out the suspense. So like every little bit, like that part where obviously like the baby starts to cry and he like looks down, he's like, oh no, and begins to like make the trek over to like that fail safe, and you see like the monster coming into frame as he's beginning to pull over like the mattress and like cover up everything. Like they really do drag it out to every single point of the film where it's like they don't leave like a little bit of delay in between where it's like you're really gonna see, oh, does the monster see him or not, or like, oh, does he cover it up in time or does he not cover it up in time? Which I like, again, like I'm ignorant when it comes to horror films, so I don't know if that's like something that's like happens a lot, or this movie kind of just did it right in terms of like the flow. It's like very much back to back to back to back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's definitely consistent.
Yeah, and get consistent. There you go. Yeah, is that like common in horror films in your opinion, or do they fail a lot in that?
It depends what you watch, really.
Yeah, it's on every one of them is different. I think now that they're making these movies and they are appealing to wider audiences, that there's probably going to be more scrutiny for that, because now that everybody's watching these, like, oh, they're going to start picking it apart, because now whenever people watch these movies like Get Out or It, they want to tell you like, oh, it's not real horror, it's actually
like thriller,
psychological thriller,
Yeah.
or
Suspense.
it's this or that. So then they're going to start like dissecting it like it's supposed to be like the Oscar type of movie. So if they're going to make like these big budget ones to apply to wider audiences, they're probably going to be a little bit more conscious to that. But if you're watching just like a fun slasher movie with guts and stuff, you mostly just play into your willing suspension of disbelief. You're like, okay, you just go with it.
Yeah. Is there any of those movies you think that are out recently?
Recently?
Yeah.
Not that I can think of.
No.
Yeah, all the
honestly.
ones, all the immediate examples I can think of are like some of the more classic ones that just get kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But that's why they're good.
So do you think like in terms of like movie production for like the horror films, do you think they can kind of backtrack and go back to that, or are they too aware of, oh, they're gonna nitpick all of my movies, like I gotta make them like the perfect horror film or whatever? You know, like there's not a lot of room to play around for them anymore.
I mean, there has to be a balance between it, because if they try too hard, it's definitely noticeable.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they try to push it like, oh, this is going to be the next iconic movie, but you can't force that.
I.e. the Mummy movie.
People
Sorry,
have
not
to pick
sorry,
it
Tom
up.
Cruise.
I am not sorry, Tom Cruise. No, it didn't happen, and they tried to force it. They tried to play it.
They tried to hype it up too. Like
They
we're
really
gonna have a
did.
whole universe, and then you have like Frankenstein, and like weren't they supposed to do like Frankenstein, like Dracula, like the werewolf,
yeah, all the famous
all the big
monsters
ones, right?
Right.
No,
just didn't pan out after that.
I think it would have just been one gigantic Tom Cruise trilogy.
Yeah,
like,
and who
horror.
really needs that? How many franchises has he been in?
Dude, he has like another Mission Impossible movie coming out, and I think I asked Robert, and I'm like, how many of those Mission Impossible movies? Too many. Okay, cool, thanks. Like, you're not wrong.
Do without it. So just having him helming another franchise, I would think. Hopefully, this proves that are we over Tom Cruise? Maybe. I am.
I don't know. I think once this new Mission Impossible comes out, in terms of the reviews and that, maybe. Because that's like the only successful franchise he has right now. Because the Mummy one didn't work out for him at all. Like, he's not fit to do horror, quote unquote, horror films, if that's what you want to call it. Which is definitely not the case.
Yeah, there was going to be a new Friday the 13th, but they scrapped it.
Oh, really?
And I'd rather fish the script out of the trash can for that one than watch Tom Cruise do anything ever again.
Really?
Yeah, I think if you look online, they actually have some of the script
posted
out
it?
for the Friday the 13th movie that got canned.
Do you know why they canned it?
There were a lot of rumors about it. One of them was that with the reboot for Rings and the new Annabelle creation movie not faring well at box office, that the production company was a little hesitant to produce another horror film. But again, with the success of the other movies like It, Get Out, A Quiet Place, it's kind of changing the field for horror as that goes. But hopefully with that trend, we get more original stuff instead of like rehashing. And we are going to get some more later this year with Halloween and Suspiria.
Yeah. But I think that Get Out and A Quiet Place now are definitely like amongst like the two that it's like, look at like the original ones are really, or where they're like the money's being sold right now.
Yeah. So like, do we need like another like Friday the 13th, like part 12?
No,
probably not, but
no.
Still take that over Tom Cruise.
Yeah, exactly. I will say though that I think the old school classics are finding their success in video games now.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Like, have you played the Friday the 13th game and like the Dead by Daylight games?
I haven't played Dead by Daylight yet, but I rage on with Friday the 13th.
Oh my god, I watched the gameplays for those and I'm like, dude, those look like so much fun.
It is unpredictable.
But it looks like so much fun. But the Dead by Daylight, for at least from what I've seen, is essentially the same concept as Friday the 13th, except it's with a bunch of different like old school horror guys.
Pretty. Well, as far as I know, I think it's just Michael Myers.
I think there's a Jigsaw one too.
For reals?
Yeah, there's a Jigsaw one, but I think either it's a part of a DLC for it or it was like a limited edition kind of thing.
Okay.
But there was a Jigsaw one, and then there's like a bunch of other characters I don't recognize. There's like a doctor who has like lightning powers and something like that. I don't know, like a evil. I genuinely don't know. But like I thought that was really cool. Seeing that like at least the classics are doing successful in that world rather than like the film world, which is like not a bad thing. Like, it's kind of like memorable in that sense. You can reminisce there and
without having to worry about ruining the legacy.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's just my opinion. But we are coming up on time, so I just want to say thank you guys for joining me today.
Well, of course.
Okay, thanks for the invite.
Of course. Thank you for legitimately teaching me the ways of like horror films because I'm completely ignorant. But I really appreciate you guys for coming on. Hopefully, I can have you guys come on again real soon. And for everybody else, this has been KCR's Tishtalk. Again, Friday nights at 8. Also catch me on The Groove Mondays from 5 to 6 with Joshua Gibson and Ryan Wayne Mueller. I will be recording the next few shows, so definitely send me some things my way. Again, I'm going to record with the boys on Monday, so if you guys have any suggestions, that'd be great. Again, follow me at KCR Tishtalk on all the social medias and KCR College Radio at KCR College Radio. And that's been it for me. Thank you guys so much. Have a good Friday the 13th and the rest of your good night. Bye!
Later.